So, yeah, Karen Taylor. I was a workplace services manager for a company called Cosocius, and kind of saying who are they. So Cosocius was a commercial company that was born in 2000, last year, 1st of April. Prior to that, we were a shared service for local government. So back in 2009, there was a local government organisation, took 6 district councils and a county council across Cheshire, formed 2 new big councils and a shared service. At the time, we had, I was saying that yesterday, over 10 service or 10 help desks, multiple different tools in place. Within the first 12 months, we consolidated and put ourselves onto just one tool. But as the years have gone forward, it's now not fit for purpose for what we were as a company and an organisation. So what I just want to go through today is the steps that we went through and who we actually went and spoke to and the services that SDI were able to provide to help us get through that journey. And phase 1 actually goes live next week. So it's been a really, really fruitful, and we've got the real benefits of bringing the experts in. So kind of step 1. I know it sounds really daft, but you need to understand your business and your business model. So the tool that we selected in 2010 wasn't fit for purpose as we were in 2015. And we knew that because we were moving into a commercial company and we were going to be bringing in HR and finance as well as IT and become a single self-portal. So our company, say, was created 1st of May last year. We supported over 10,500 end users, over 300 schools. It wasn't just IT that we were looking at doing it. We wanted to bring HR and finance in, so we had to really understand what their requirements was for the company and what the strategic vision was over the next 5 years. So we set ourselves a 3 to 5 year goal and target to say this is the tool that we're going to be using for the next 5 years. The actual desk has got 19 analysts associated to it. We're a full technical front desk, so they needed to have that information, the real-time data, right at the front. We changed it from a first-time fixed rate of about 20% in 2019, and we're currently on about 75 to 80%. And we needed to be able to do a channel shift from taking people who were predominantly phoning in, and we had an awful high volume of people who were still sending us emails. And we wanted to be able to eradicate that and put everyone down the self-serve portal. So as I was saying, we needed to understand, step 2, understand your business requirements, what it is, what you want it to be able to do. So we operated a large volume of different systems. We had one system that did incident management and problem management. We had a separate system that did change, an access database, may I say, that did the majority of our assets. We just put in SCCM, so we had more systems. We had SCOM, we had SolarWinds for doing our network, and the list went on, to be honest. So we had to know what it was that we wanted to achieve from this new system tool. So we wanted that fully integrated tool to join up our service. So there was one single source of the truth of the information that was coming out. There was too many dashboards for reporting. And, you just don't know where you are with that kind of thing. The big one was to enable our customers to have that online service catalogue. We were evolving as a company. We were set up as a commercial business. We were starting to transition to a managed service provider. So we needed to actually be able to present out to our customers what we did and what they were able to request from us. And also to enable it for us to change the way in which our customers contacted us as a business. We wanted to move away from the old IT kind of a service desk and move into that shared service portal of come to us. It's a one-stop shop. You can get your HR, your finance, and your IT all in one position. Yes, sure, Barclay, yeah.
Just that might seem an obvious statement to say understand your business requirements, but basically, if you think about it, if you produce a spec or an RFP that is just a list of technical requirements, that's not a business requirement. So, the fact that what we see is a lot of people still producing those kind of specs, and it's really important to start where your business is going and make that clear, because it makes the whole project much more clarified and more likely to succeed, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So our business requirements, as you can see, it was quite a long list, but it was really important to actually articulate and put them down onto paper to say what it was we wanted. We just didn't want a tool that we were able to log tickets into. It had to be an enabler for our customers to enjoy the experience of coming and contacting us. Demonstrable effectiveness and efficiency, become that enabler for our customers so they didn't have to keep going to different portals to find the information. Engendering trust, so we had to be able to deliver accurate and honest information because our clients, our stakeholders would question our data. You know, you'd run something in one report and you'd run it off your CMS report and it didn't join up. There was a mismatch in data. So we wanted to be able to give them the confidence that what we were actually churning out from the system was accurate and correct. And it was also to demonstrate to our customers that we understood what their business model was. That's step 2. Step 3, and again, identify your critical success factors. If you don't know what they are before you start your project, how do you know if you've been successful once it's implemented and it's gone live? So again, it's a reiteration of your business requirements, consistency of approach and efficiency across all support areas. It sounds really basic stuff, but if you've got it on a piece of paper, you can go back and check upon it. Local government, your funding, your finances aren't great. You know, the money that you get, you have to use accurately and you know, and worthwhile. So we had to be on budget and deliver the project on time. I think we had a 1 week slippage, so it's gone live this week, and we've pushed phase 1 into next week. It's got to be easy to use. It's got to be, you know, fully integral, one single source of the truth. Enable the technicians to want to use it because there's so many systems that people are like, no, that's just not good enough for me. We're going to go back to a paper-based version of it. Document training, smooth and seamless transition. When you're working in busy environments, we were taking probably just over 10,000 calls per month. You can't just suddenly go from one system to another if you've not done your training, your preparation, your documentation. So that was a real critical success factor for ourselves. Again, the channel shift. We saw earlier that people still pick the phone up, but we wanted to be able to enable them to go to the self-serve portal. We wanted automation, so that if they requested some software, it would be distributed within 5-10 minutes, depending on the network bandwidth. We wanted it to be a lot more smooth line. And the next one, the very bottom one there, so Cosocius had gone on to the service desk certification programme and we got a 3-star certificate. We've just gone through our first surveillance and we've remained at 3-star. But one of the main drivers to get us to a 4-star is the system tool. It was identified that we didn't have that joined up and it was it was holding us back. So the tool had to be able to bring us forward and hopefully next January when we get our second surveillance, we'll move into that 4-star desk. Do you want to add anything to that, Barclay? No? Step 4, plan your journey for implementation. You've got to have a start point. You need to put something in the sand, really, to say, when are we going to look to go live? So we started our research in September 2012. We then went to a number of events, 2013, and we started our workshops. So we started to go out and look at what tools were available. Because, you know, we didn't know what was on the market, we didn't know what was in the Gartner's quadrant of excellence, etc. So we started to do our research and see when systems were going to be released, what new, gizmos and, all the good stuff that it's going to be bringing to it. We issued the tender then in May 2014. Local authority, your tender's got to be spot on. We can't go out and actually start engaging with vendors, as public sector can. The actual tender had to be accurate and brought the right people to the table when we needed it to. We started the shortlisting summer last year. We signed the contract in September 14, and I say we're due to go live next week. So it's not a quick transition from when you decide to go. And before that, we'd already done the business case and the requirements to be able to get the justification for the financial spend. Step 5. So this before the tender's out, but who do you actually need to be involved in putting a new system tool in place. You have to have the entire company behind you to want to actually migrate onto a new system. So it's from project managers, it's from your technical owners, so your process owners. So we had different people in incident management, problem management, change. Everybody wanted the different tool. We were all using separate tools. So it's making sure that you identify who needs to be part of the journey from the very beginning, so that as you do go through to implementation, it's a joint, collaborative piece of work that you've done, and you don't go live and someone says, well, nobody asked me. Everybody's had an opportunity. And it also included talking to our customers as well, to say, what is it that you want? So everybody within the organisation has a role to play in this. So step 6, this is where we started to really drill down onto our research and to have a look at what was available. So there's plenty of different ways in which you can do your research. So again, we started off with identifying our business requirements, talking with our stakeholders, seeing what their aspirations were. So local authority, what did they want to do? They're moving to more flexible and mobile working strategy. They wanted people to be out of the building. They'd started to take desks away, so it was a 4-to-1 ratio. So we had to be able to put the tool out for them to be able to use on smartphones, on tablets, iPads. And we started to run these multiple internal workshops to discover what our requirements were. So it's not a case of just saying, I've got incident management and I need to be able to raise a ticket. That's a given. But what is it that we want to be able to do? So for us, it was the channel shift. Make it more intuitive, sell our services so that the customers knew what we were actually providing as a service. We then started to attend the SDI events, so that there's a whole host of stuff that you can get your hands on. The software showcase, really great. Things like today at the conference, you've got the SITs where you can go to, get out and talk to these vendors and get a feel for what they are and what they're, from a supplier capability point of view, you need to understand what their ethos is and what their philosophy is and where are they driving that next tool. We started to look at our customer satisfaction. I know it sounds, what's that doing in there, but we needed to hear them to say what do they want the tool to be able to do. And that continual service improvement started to keep, the Gartner, the soccer team, what are the new tools out there, who's up and coming, who's actually fading away, which channel are they going down to. The service desk certification, for us, that was a real driver. Areas in there that we just weren't performing from a system management tool. And we started to look at the partnership and resourcing and the reporting side of things. So say we had multiple different ways in which we could get data out, but we wanted to be able to bring it all from one system management tool. There was a requirement there because of the certification we're going through. We wanted a tool that we were able to deliver at a push of a button, the SDI reports, so that we could do the performance results. Tons of industry events, as I was talking about before. That's when we engaged with SDI from the tool selection service. Barclay, do you want to pick up on anything on that area?
Well, I think it's important that you mentioned that there's a number of different things that you could do. Sometimes people focus on just one of these, maybe one of the analyst reports or one of the types of events. I think it's good to go to a variety of different and look at a number of different sources to check, because just because something might not be on the Gartner Magic Quadrant doesn't mean to say it might not be the right product for your organisation. And whilst what Karen's saying about the early steps, some of them are quite obvious, we do see an awful lot of mismatch vendor and product implementations. Huge amount of the times that I go and look at organisations, it's not really the fault of the product very often that it might not be working the way you want it. Some cases it is, but very often it's more the way it's been implemented or not implemented fully, and it's kind of fallen into disrepute, whatever you want to say. And that's, rather than saying that there's something fundamentally wrong with a large number of the products in the market, it's actually the fact that it's not working in that organisation. So that's when it makes sense maybe to have a look around. But the whole thing is about actually having the right culture fit of product and vendor and your organisation. So that's where, from when somebody like me comes in and does a bit of work, it's to say, right, well, what area of the market are we actually going to look at?
Yeah. And the last one, the site visits. So we'd worked in local authority, that's all we knew. So we started then to engage with public sector and private sector and education, because we supported education. We needed to understand what their requirements was. So there's a whole host of research that you can put in place, which really aids the journey for you. So that's steps. Yeah, sure. Pardon? It will be available, yeah. So step 7, engage with the experts. I put a system in once. We had 7 different vendors we had licenses for, and we chose one of them. I didn't really know what else was out there. We'd done all this research, but we could have, from a company or from an authoritative organisation, spent another 10, 12, 20 weeks doing the research, where we could have engaged with the experts who could do it in a week for us. So that's where we looked into SDI and looked at the tool selection service. Barclay came on site. We ran a number then of different workshops which Barclay facilitated, and we started to work through exactly so that Barclay could understand what we wanted out of it, so understand what our business was and what our requirements were. Anything else you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to say, it's not as if SDI is saying this is the product you should buy, go and buy this product. It's helping you to go through the process of really making sure that you are getting the right product for you. So that things like the workshop and being prepared as well, all this sort of research stuff and workshops and getting your requirements together really helps and really builds the opportunity to have a good implementation, because you'll have spent time thinking about data, you'll have spent time thinking about process and so on. We'll come back to that a little bit later. But
yeah. So step 8, this was when the hard work kind of hit in. Local authority, as I said before, it's complex. You've got to put your tender out that actually smashes the market and gets exactly what you want, because you get the results in, you do your scoring matrix, and you might end up with the wrong fit. So we had to be really creative in how we actually approach that. So we looked into pink verification. They give you all your standard functionality. They've got to be certified. So we wanted 11 pink verify ticks against the box on incident management, change, problem, service catalogue, service level management, knowledge base. And then we had a couple of nice to haves. So your availability, your capacity, the kind of the HR and finance side of things, they were all kind of nice to have. So when we actually structured the tender, we put it into 3 different phases. So the evaluation, we had a pass-fail criteria. So we listed all of the systems we needed it to integrate with. Sounds daft, but you need it to integrate with AD, SCCM, so we could do the deployment of assets and software. So there we looked at, tell me about your company information, tell me about your insurance information, your subcontractor, your financial scoring from a company point of view, how stable are they as an organisation. Talked about the pink verification, the integration, the pass-fail, and the supplier availability and their ability to be able to put a project in. Have they done this before at such a complex company? If they passed all of those, they moved into the step 2. If they failed, that was it. They were sidelined. So then it came into our software functionality. And I say we'd already gone through Pink and said, well, it can do all this. We know that. It can send an email out. It can send a customer survey out. But we'd gone through the workshop and said, what is it we want over and above those criteria? And we marked it against 3 different things. So is it out of the box? If it was, you got a 3, so that we could just simply lift and shift it and put it in. The stuff that we want it to do you have to customise? So that then got a score of a 2.
Karen,
Yeah.
just ask the distinction between customisation and configuration. Because some systems do.
Yeah, it is if you have to configure it. Yeah.
Can you just exploit it?
I suppose, yeah, out of the boxes, you could literally plug it in and they've got an inbuilt instant management process. So that's out the box. If you want that process then to be able to, say, when you resolve a ticket and you want it to go to a closed state after 5 days, then that's where you configure it. And that's fine, that's what everybody kind of expects. When it comes to development, does it not actually do what we want it to do? And do we then have to pay the consultants to do some more build for us? And we gave that as a score of 1. So it was a 1, 2 and a 3. So it was out the box, you got top score for it.
I think these days that's represented. A lot of the vendors go for this kind of, codeless capability as to whether or not you can build it yourself without having to write scripts or code. But they all have a slightly different take on that. I think it's just out of the box is slightly confusing because there's none of them that really work out of the box. You've got to create the data, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's just how simple is it to go quickly to a point where we're getting reasonably standard functionality, and are you as an organisation, the buying organisation, do you have any really unusual requirements? Because most of these processes really are becoming commodity. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Incident, problem, and change. It's pretty standard,
Mm-hmm. And then that last area looked at the implementation. So what was their project management? Have they got a framework? Are they agile? Are they Prince? How are they going to approach it? What was their schedule of works? So they look at your tender and they put a schedule of works together for you. Does that actually fit with what you need? And do they actually clearly understand that we want to go live in 8 months' time? And have they actually put enough thought into the schedule of works that demonstrates that? What's their approach to training? This is a really interesting one. You're seeing from the vendor point of view, are they just going to dump it and off they go? Or are they actually going to invest up front and give you the training? And for me, it was, are they going to give us the training on the system tool and then we'll go into the workshops so that we knew what the functionality and the nice-to-haves would be before we started to think about the build of it. The marketing, were they going to help us to market this new product into our business? And the communication, how are they going to engage with us? How are we going to actually be able to do escalations if we weren't happy? What was that hierarchical escalation point, and was that clearly articulated?
So, I think this part is really important because, we have a really quite a saturated market these days. There are a lot of products, and a lot of them offering kind of the same stuff. They will all argue about that, but basically, if you want standard, if you want to do incident, problem, change, service level management, there's a number of products that will do that and do it very well and do it relatively simply. This is where we're really into the kind of culture fit. What do you need as an organisation? Are you at a level of maturity yourselves that you know exactly what you want and you can just progress that and deliver it? Or will you be looking for a partner that will help you, particularly in terms of like how you build your data and how you structure that and how you make it work for you, your reporting and so on, and have the right kind of resources to do that? So do they make you feel comfortable that they're going to be able to deliver that and deliver it in a way that will work for you as an organisation? Mm-hmm. And that, to be honest, is certainly in my mind one of the biggest differentiators. And I was talking earlier about the mismatch. We do see a lot of small organisations that have bought massive enterprise products. See large enterprise organisations that have got, really quite basic out-of-the-box product. And you can do well with either, but, in terms of the amount of time that you've got, the amount of input that you will need to build this, what's the best fit for you? If you're an enterprise organisation, you will probably need more help from the vendor than just, there you go, get on with it. So that's a really important part. I think you really want to stress that you have to look at not just the product, but the vendor.
Definitely. So step 9, so we've got all our tenders back, we've shortlisted, we've scored them, and we've got our top 5 vendors who's going to come in and wow us. And they're going to probably show you all the shiny stuff that's the really, the stuff that you already know it does. So the actual day of the demonstration, how can you actually put it together so that it actually satisfies you and you get to answer them to answer the questions that you need to. So we'd structured it, so we'd said, right, we don't want a demonstration of how you log an incident. I've been there, I've done it, I've seen it, I've been to SITS, I've been here. So tell me what your approach is going to be. So we got them to talk about their approach to the supplier engagement and the project management, how they're going to engage with us. What were they going to do if we weren't happy with any part of the stage, from a consultant who came on site to the running of the workshops? How would they actually be able to feed back to us? But we did want to see a little bit of the demonstration about some of the main tools. So we chose our problem management, which was real key to us, and change management is our two areas that we wanted to really demonstrate on the day. And we set a challenge to say, you've got 15 minutes in which to demonstrate, go. And we set a big alarm clock on the wall, and we pressed go. And as soon as that 15-minute went, there was a buzzer, and that's it, we cut them off. They had to be able to deliver within that time frame. And we told them that we were going to do that, but it stopped them going on and on and on, telling you what they want you to hear, and we wanted to make sure they told us what we wanted to know. So the demonstration was really great. And again, Barclay came on site that day, and we went round the table and we asked questions, but Barclay asked the more questions about the supplier capability. Is there anything else you want to add to that side?
No, the clock sounds a bit draconian, but it worked really well in this instance. I mean, I have seen it where it's been a little bit, but because there was a good schedule of we want you to cover this, we want you to go through these elements when you come to present with us, make the best use of your time, and as Karen said, incident management again. We've seen that, so let's get into something a little bit more meaty, and you then have to decide how you're going to do that in the time. But the time constraint actually is quite useful because it's very easy for that time to go, and you spent an hour looking at how to log a call when actually what you want to do is understand how they do SLAs.
Yeah, and I think because you had 5 people coming in, different companies to present to you, you didn't want to start switching off and not give the same attention to the 5th company that come in as you did to the first. Because it's over a day, and we've kind of really ramped it through.
Did I miss a day? There was 3.
Was there 3? There was 3. That's
Yeah.
last night, isn't it? Sorry, there were 3. There were 5 and we shortlisted to 3. Thanks. And step 10, the implementation. So we got our new shiny contract, we signed on a dotted line. Now we started to plan the implementation. And again, you feel that you've gone on a journey of the last 18 months, 2 years, just to get back to step 1, to actually start doing your implementation. On that, we could probably talk for another hour, 2 hours on. But to me, it was around the training, your documentation, making sure that the scope of what you actually defined from the beginning, you stuck with. Always going back and checking those critical success factors, were you actually achieving it? Was it on time? Were you then engaging with your stakeholders? We ramped ourselves into, I think on a monthly basis to start with, we were having programme board meetings, and then we put it into fortnightly when we really started to step it up. But yeah, they're kind of my top 10 steps to a smooth implementation. We had a couple of little hiccups, but nothing major. We entered the awards last night, but we didn't go live. We hadn't gone live, so really we wouldn't have been able to win last night on that front. But yeah, it's been really good. I'll just hand over to Barclay.
Okay, thanks. Just a couple of things I was just going to show you. And there is that point about, you can actually spend a lot of time and effort and obviously money, but to get to that point where you have actually chosen the product and you think, oh, phew, job done. But actually, no, the project starts from that point onwards. And I think it's really important as well. Things move very quickly then, and the vendors are generally looking to, they're implementing on a project basis, on a budget and a time scale, and you'll have a certain amount of days, you'll have a certain amount of time to do things. The vendors want you to give them information. They want you to make decisions, particularly about data. And so the more you can think about that in advance, the better. The more you can understand what your outputs are, plan ahead, but also how you're going to structure your data. Because a lot of the traditional implementations have been done around, let's just get started with incident management, let's just get going, and actually 6 months down the line, that gives you a problem because you haven't really thought about services, you haven't really thought about the structure of your components, your CMDB, whatever you want to call it, and the information doesn't come out in the way that you want it or the way that you need it. The difficult thing is that you're asked those questions when you're just starting to understand what those things are. So the more advanced thinking you can do about that and try and plan out what your requirements are, as soon as you sign a contract, ask the vendor for their, it's usually called something like a master data workbook or a document where they're going to capture a lot of data. They will do it in a workshop, but in the workshop you shouldn't be, one, trying to understand what this is, and two, make a decision about it. But that's what will be pressed upon you as an organisation relatively quickly. So you have to get ready for that as soon as possible. So there's a lot of work, and that sort of period between when the excitement of actually signing up with whatever vendor it is, and then thinking about implementation, is really absolutely critical to making sure that the project is going to be a success. And this is just a few things that I see with challenges in these projects from the organisational side and the vendor side. And a lot of things that Karen has mentioned already in terms of being clear on your objectives, clear on your project logistics, how much time of your own people will be needed to do this. And you may not be able to do that accurately, but what you do need to do is to get agreement that you're going to get some DBA time, you're going to get some sysadmin time, you're going to get people trained and ready to do that specific piece of work. And the thing I see quite a lot is where the vendors who are maybe on a relatively tight implementation approach, they might have 10 days, they might have 15 or 20, whatever it is, but things can go awry quite quickly if that simple logistics approach isn't synchronized, that you aren't working as a team, that the vendor understands your type of organization and what the lead time will be to book those people's time. Is it the sort of organization where we really have to plan that in advance? What kind of people do I need to engage with to load up the software on the server or to do whatever kind of technical security type work? Will they be there on the right day? It's real kind of logistics stuff that you've got to be really clear about. Getting involvement across the business. Data is the big one. I'll just come on to that in a second. And the other thing, again, you spend a lot of money on these products. And I don't understand why any organization would do that and just say, right, we're just going to replace what we've got. It's a fantastic opportunity to get some improvement. So again, if you've spent a little bit of time working on it, then you can actually do that. But I do see a lot of organizations where they get it in quick. Well, let's just get it in quickly, bit of instant management, and then we'll pick it up. And then nothing happens. And then 2 years later, they're fed up with that product and they're going somewhere else in the market. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that product. I do try to say to the vendors, be brave and positive about what you actually propose in terms of consultancy. Because if it is 15 days, say that it's 15 days. There's no point saying, oh, yeah, we'll do it in 10. And actually, one way or another, it's not, they're not going to be happy with that. The customer's not going to be, unless they do fixed price. But you have to be really clear on that implementation cost, understand the amount of time that's required, and start to really think about, are they engaging with us in a way that they are asking the right kind of questions, or are they just saying, well, there you go, there's a document, 200 pages, work it out. Some places are fine with that, but many places are not. On the vendor side, they need to be inquisitive. They need to understand what your goals are. They need to be making sure they're working with the right people and being clear on this question of data is absolutely key. But they should also, you've got the opportunity of experts there from that vendor, from that product. Use them, take their advice. A lot of the functions are quite standard, but they will have their own way of doing it, and it's important that if they say, why would you want to do it like that, that you actually listen and take that on board. The other thing then is this thing about data, and I think it's just very simply, there's 4 types of data that you should be thinking about. There's organizational data. So that's, our people, our locations, our buildings, and then all our components and equipment, CMDB type stuff. But how are you going to structure that? You do departments, is it regions, is it locations? And what sort of information are you going to capture? And most importantly, where are you going to get it? Active Directory, telephone system, back of a fag packet. It's just making sure that you've got all that clear in your mind as to where it's going to come from and how you're going to get it. The second one is service data, which is very often the one that doesn't get done and hasn't been done in the past. But that is, it's not just service catalog, but information about what your services are at a business level. So that's, what is the service, who are the customers, what's the SLA applied, what is the support model that you would be applying to that service. And that really vastly improves the quality of the output and the reporting that you will get coming out of this. And I'm really pleased that, to see more and more vendors that actually say, we're not going to start with incident management, we're going to start with what are your services and build that on your organizational data. The third one is transactional data, so that's your actual live, categorization. How are you going to define what your SLAs are? What sort of categories for logging and for closing? And if you look at the SDI standards, we're quite clear that you should have separated logging and closure resolution categories because it gives you much better data. And then finally, your reporting. What kind of reports are we going to get out of this? All that stuff was, you had quite a lot of that stuff, didn't you, already? But some of it, it's the same as the 1, 2, 3. There's some data you've got as is. Some data you're going to have to find somewhere, and some others you're going to have to tweak to make it worthwhile. Was that a big challenge, finding the data?
It was, because I say what we had, the Active Directory wasn't really fit for purpose. Organisations had changed their structures so often, and they don't tell IT that they change. So we had to look to say what was our true source of information, and it was the financial system, our Oracle system. So then we had the kind of challenge to say, well, how are we going to match that data together to feed into the new system? And again, the service catalogue, we were just starting out really from a catalogue service offerings point of view. We'd had a paper-based one since 2011, but when you tried to put that into a system tool, it just wasn't working. So we started to do all this data collection probably as we put the tender out, and we'd had different separate work streams. So as we came to sign it, we weren't perfect by a long shot, but we were able to then get into the workshops and say, this is clearly what our data is, what we want it to be able to do, and this is where it's going to feed it. So we really were able to get the most out of the day that you're paying for the consultant to be on site.
Did you say much data across from the old system?
No, so our old system for incident and problem management, we made a conscious decision just to leave and just leave it in that system. When it came to change, we wanted to take an archive and copy it across so that we had that information, because that was a cloud-based solution as well, what we were using, so that was just going to get cut off. The other one for incident and problem management, we had, the data and information there. All we didn't have then is, as we went live, is the hardware and software, the software support side of things. So we made the decision to keep some stuff just out of it, because you can get tens of thousands of incident logs, and it's there. Why put it into the new system?
What tool did you choose?
We went for Landesk. Yeah. Thought somebody might ask me that question. Other products are available.
Could we take that offline? We're very happy to talk about that offline. We don't really want to get too much into the product side of it. The thing that we try and do, and just on the positioning this, is we don't say to people, go and buy this product. What we say is, here's how you can get to that position. We'll take you to that position where you're looking at the right kind of products and that are going to fit for you, and then we will help you to make that decision. But this sort of stuff, I was actually doing some workshops last week with a couple of clients where they bought or they're just about to buy tools, and we were doing this kind of gap analysis. What data do we need? Where are we going to get it? What decisions do we need to make? And that's in advance of having the vendor's actual data workbook, but just being clear on what we've got, where it is, what we'd like to have in terms of future state, not just our current futures. And the other one here is risk assessment. We need to be clear where the challenges and risks will be in the project, and that could be anything from people, resources, external projects, other things going on, that we're not going to just do this in a couple of weeks. It's going to take a little bit of time to get the data, to get the right things in place, because it is a significant project, significant investment. You want to get the best value out of it. So spending a little bit of time doing this kind of stuff, even post-decision, is really useful. But I think the final thing is that the preparation will save you time and money and ensure a better implementation. You know, however you do that, whether you use external help, whether you just do it by research, just looking at one source of information is probably not enough in terms of context. But having that kind of broad view as to what it's going to do for your organization, for your business, and trying to get ready for it as quickly as you can, or not as quickly, as soon as you can, before the vendors actually come on site, because they will be wanting to move that forward as quickly as possible. I'm not saying that's a bad thing on their side. I'm just saying that they will have agreed a certain amount of time, and you just have to make sure you make the most of that, and that you have time to think about your decisions, your data decisions, your process decisions. How are we going to do this? Who's going to do it? What kind of structure do we want? What kind of reports do we really want? Rather than we're just going to get it and suddenly, before we know it, it's in and it's not working exactly as we'd like it to work.
Okay, guys, unfortunately time's beaten us because there is another keynote about to start back in the Monarch very shortly that I know all of you should get back into. Obviously, Karen and Barclay are around for the rest of the day, so grab them and chat to them and find out all the rest of your questions. Sorry we haven't had time for questions here. Could we just thank Karen and Barclay for